Hello, brothers and sisters. You're watching Let's Talk Racism, where we make truth a big deal. It's your host, Harrison Paul, and today we're going to get into some more issues concerning the black community. TV Joshua, pastor within Nigeria, pastor of a big church, he's deceased, but a documentary came out with BBC, which I'm very disappointed and upset about, because I'm asking myself, why am I getting a BBC documentary about an African pastor before I'm getting a Prince Andrew, documentary. So this documentary basically is a smear campaign exposing him, and I have every right to call it a smear campaign. Why? Because I just don't like the fact that British media are consistent on smearing Africa before they smear their own. How about we make a documentary on how Prince Andrew has done what he's done? And that's the problem I just want Africans to be aware of before I even go any further in this podcast. I just want you guys to understand that, listen, these guys, we can't allow them to keep doing this. We can't allow them, and I can see a lot of the reactions, people going, this is what African pastors do. We kind of have to have a post-colonial mentality where we know, listen, first things first, you're the last person we are going to hear anything about righteousness from, anything about, exposing people, because you failed to give honesty and expose yourself. So please always take these things with a pinch of salt, and don't do them the favor by perpetuating the narrative that we are just these people who are so corrupt and we're filled with corruption. Look, there's a few things I got from this documentary, but I only watched episode 1. I might do a review on every episode. I'll see, because basically I'm not going to do anything if it's concerning smearing a dead man. It's just not what is, ethical. But there was something I felt was important for me to speak on, because it is about black consciousness. So if you have a minute, we'll play the tape. And I saw this very interesting part. I think you should watch.
He knows exactly what he wanted to achieve. He had special interest in the Oyibo, the whites.
Are you surprised that God is using a black man to do all these things? I'm sorry.
I'm not surprised that God is using a black man. Never ever have I seen the power of God manifest like it's here.
1996, one of the major pastors came from South Africa. When they were leaving, he gave more than 200 VHS videos to take home to give to people. Videos of miracles, videos of confessions, videos that will fill their head. I said, this is too expensive. He laughed. You think I'm a fool? I know what I'm doing. A time will come. This synagogue church is going to shoot out from South Africa to the whole world.
Believe you me, brothers and sisters, Nigeria was the last place on earth that I ever wanted to come to. They fraudsters, they money launderers, they drug peddlers. And I say, God, sorry. Yeah, is a piece of heaven on earth.
The greatest thing that pumped synagogue church was when the foreigners started coming. This was strategic, and it was planned.
I just got a confession to make that I want the whole world to know. In the past, I've always hated blacks. I really hated them. When I got back over here, I saw the love that we received from black people.
He used the white people to market his brand. Having white man or white woman around is like you have achieved. He just said, look at these people. They don't know where they are.
Each one that goes home tries to contact his brothers, contact his friend in the US, contact those in the UK.
What do you have to say?
I never experienced anything like that before, but I will bring all of this back to my country. I will tell people.
Okay, so let's get some things straight. You know, I watched a clip recently of this very intelligent dark-skinned girl, and she was taking notice to how a lot of light-skinned women, a lot of the time, sometimes happen often, where they feel as though they have an encounter with a dark-skinned woman, and that dark-skinned woman was jealous of them. And instead of having empathy towards the fact that, wow, we live in a society where this girl is downtrodden, that, yeah, she may be feeling inadequate due to Eurocentric beauty standards. And I had a few people in my comments quite recently saying, oh, this whole idea of imagery and programming is not really, I'm not buying it because I watched white television, but I never, it never worked on me. Well, tell that to a lot of black dark-skinned women who've actually, have experiences that I could sit here and have a 50-day podcast with just black women giving all of their individual stories. And I even have a black woman who does this podcast with me. So, but what she did, this black woman, which I really loved, she kind of said, instead of you having empathy for what society has done to this young woman, unfortunately, the pressure it's put on her, because no one makes you do anything, but of course, the pressure, it's hard to, you succumb to the pressure and the lies that you're told about yourself. Instead of you using, your privilege to lift up your sister, you're using it to bash them down. And that's a big thing I want to teach to my mixed son, is that he will have privileges over other black boys in his school, maybe in class, in life. And I want to teach him to, in those very hot moments, to use that to pull up another dark-skinned brother, or to see those moments, or, to see where a white person kind of connects with more because he is half white, and be like, nah. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm with my brothers, or I'm with my sisters, or, that kind of way. So, amazing point. But what I alluding to here when it comes to this podcast is that, there are even this TB Joshua documentary, there are even some sections here in which he had the young girls, because what happened was there was young girls who were hired just simply because they were white, to be almost the face of this church. And they were really unqualified. There was no real credentials as people who were developed in the Lord. They were just white people who he knew. Now, this is the point I'm going to get to. It's sad that I'm looking at more like he knew my people are so enslaved that if I gather white people here, that is a form of success. If I gather white people here, it will mean more to the world and mean more to the African people. And that's quite like what I'm saying with that example. We should more be looking at the fact of that here we have the BBC making a documentary about look how much this pastor worshipped us. It's a very messed up thing that's happening here. You should be ashamed that your colonial damage actually created this, but in a very weird kink, you are parading it and then bashing us again on top of it. Here is a black man who understood first things first, that this people had these biases. And here you have a woman who's saying, I told God, I hate those black people. They're this, they're that, they're this. Think about how much she had to look down on black people. If she had the courage to say that to a room full of black people, You know what I'm trying to say? You would even just say, oh, I didn't have good opinions. And then this guy again, I hated blacks. And I feel like this man, being an orchestrator, being a leader, I'm not going to get into what kind of a leader he was or what went on in there because he's dead. But what I am going to discuss, and he's black, and I have that loyalty towards my race, especially a dead man. But what I'm going to discuss here is you have these young girls, and I think I'll put a picture up on the screen of one of the girls in the documentary, and I'll put a picture up of two of them there. And there's sections where they're just kind of expressing how, you know, when I got there, he treated me like royalty, or just different elements like this. And it's like there's even a slight pompousness in that, or ignorance to, do you know why he worshipped you? Do you know why they, as a church, as a people, as a nation, worshipped you? If you did, will you be standing there like, yeah, when I arrived, do you know what I'm saying? I feel there is an absence of them actually understanding, and this is why it's so important as black people in the diaspora, that we remind, you know, Europeans that remember what you did, because a lot of what you did is the cause of what we see in today's life. And I think they have like a cognitive dissonance where it's like, why are all Africans emigrating here? Well, because you destroyed Africa. Okay, why are all Africans coming here? Because neocolonialism, and you're still taking from Africa. But your leaders keep you ignorant. Your leaders could, and we call our leaders corrupt, that's corruption. And your leader, do you know, it's a point, I'm so happy I get to put this in. Do you know that the colonial version of history is still taught in African schools? The colonial version of history, the watered down. And it's taught as well in European schools. In fact, it's not taught in European schools. They leave it out. We'll talk about Hitler before we talk about Africa. And that's why these kids and even these adults in Europe have no shame. The children of the imperialists have absolutely no shame. And that's purposely and willfully, intentionally done. And they're so ignorant of the facts. I'm watching an anti-immigration movement going on in Ireland. Do you even know why we're here in the first place? Do you even know why? Do you even know the depths of the problems, of the trauma that we face because of the damage, the proxy war that you cause in Africa? The lack of freedom. We're not entitled to the fruits of our labor, the stealing of our natural resources, the destroying our imagery so you could maintain stealing, so you could make the world think that we were a poor country, a needy country. You know the damage that's caused in African people psychologically? Brokenness, a lack of confidence, a low racial self-esteem. And then their people point the finger at you. Look, I want us as black people to be more focused for the years to come on saying, listen, you have lied enough, Mr. White Man. You have lied enough. But we're so easily bought. We're so easily bought because we think we've been given a visa, we've been given a stay in our country, we're so easily bought that to appease him, not to say anything that will overly offend him, is something that we are so loyal to and dedicated to. You know, I was thinking quite recently about this subject of the white man being the God of the African, and I was thinking how a lot of parents nowadays in African culture are more concerned about who would claim to be Christians, are more concerned about if their child are doing well in school, degree, good job, than they are concerned about if the child is walking in the spirit. If you've noticing spiritual things within your child that are straying from the biblical precepts. And why has something like school become so important to us? Hear me. In the Bible, nobody went to school. It's not saying it's not a good tool, but I feel like in many ways we've made the white man and his idea of life, his idea of success, his idea of intelligence, our God. That if you were actually to look in a lot of African people's hearts, it ranks over what we know in our roots of who we are, would probably rank to the bottom. And then we plagiarize that, or we mask that as though it is God's will, or it's stuff that he really cares about. You know, they asked the pastor recently, I watched the tape, I won't out the pastor, what do you think about the black struggle, basically? And he whisked away the answer and said, listen, I just believe that if you don't add value, then you're no use to anybody. So add value. Make sure in your life you add value. And I'm thinking to myself, like, he just whisked away a very severe mental problem and fight for freedom. An amazing opportunity to liberate and to take seriously a generational curse. We love to talk about generational curses in church. And he missed up that opportunity. And what's the first thing that he said? If your brother has a degree and your other one has a degree and you don't have the master's, and we put that on such a high, yet nobody has a sense of identity. I have an episode that I spoke about it on, which is called Cultural Upbringing. No, actually, it's called Flawed African Christianity. And then I had From Drugs to Christ. And I talk a lot about this idolatry, this worship of the white man that I believe us Africans are the Israelites. But I feel along the way, historically, we lost sight of our ability to be God's people. I feel strongly we are in a place of idolatry that we are framing as, one thing I like about God is that he will very quickly, he loves to show you and remind you in the wildest of ways. And when I say wild, I mean like things you would have swore in this earthly world were ethical to do. Like, that's not necessarily mine. I heard another pastor say, which was quite cool. He goes, our problem is that we read the Bible with a Western idea. Like, for example, when you're 18, you have to be out of the house. When you're, so we think, oh, King David was out of the house by 18. Like, kind of way it's like, or Rebecca and all these kind of things. We read the Bible with like a Western ideology, but it wasn't. It didn't praise Western capitalist ideas of life. Completely opposite to that. And then we've made those capital Western things biblical in many ways. Now, I do believe God will follow your dreams, but I believe in the terms of what do we take more serious, what matters, I think we rank the white man's idea of what's important. And we've made it like one of the main insults I always hear for black people, amongst African culture, they'll say, oh, you're uneducated. That's probably the worst thing you can say to a black person, that he does not have the white man's idea of education. Do you know the white man himself is even abandoning it and hiring people, and people like Elon Musk are getting fired? Elon Musk said, I won't even make my children go to college. And then we now, because our sense of self-worth for a very long time hung on, because the white man made us believe that you will be my equal when you're educated, which was a lie, because you still haven't been able to become his equal in his ranking of society. So in order to get our own ranking and get power, I think we have to get back to a sense of self. That's why when it comes to my Christianity, when it comes to everything, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of self and rid of traditions, expel traditions and cultural ideas and get back to it. Right down to marriage, right down to how I'm conducting, my wife, my soon-to-be wife who I'm courting. Everything. I don't want to do it how he did it or what he would think, and then consider it a holy marriage. Let's talk about this documentary again, and let's just really touch on the fact that the big problem here is the colonized mind. That is, as you can see in this episode 1 of the documentary, one of our generational curse. And what gets me is that I said in that episode, that one of, flawed African Christianity, it seems like nobody wants to talk about it. I will not go to any church in Ireland or anywhere that's talking about the curse of the fact that we still idolatry. Our women have to wear a wig. I even saw a pastor who was preaching about gotta wear your wig on the pulpit.
All of you be carrying natural hair about. Who natural hair help? Okay. Better wear your wig. I be doing like this. And be flipping it. Go and spend that money on hair. Draw your brows. Buy lip gloss. Look good. Natural hair is not selling markets.
And I want to say to Christians, you don't even know what spirit is in that. I know a lot of people are going to get offended with this, but what if God is looking at that like we have been worshiping our oppressor for too long? His imagery of beauty is what he said was good hair, what he said was bad hair. And I know it because when you try to go in any church, nobody wants to discuss this generational curse of worshiping the white man, the West, Europe. Nobody. Yet it's a big problem within our community. So before I start talking about who he did or what he did or who I might get to that, whatever is in the episode 2. I'm not concerned about that. If there's anything in the other episodes about colonial matters or emancipating the mind, I'm going to talk about it like how I'm doing here. Listen, this right here, this was sad to watch. All of our people, like children, simply because that's post-traumatic slave syndrome. We're still functioning in that. I'll show this tape to pastors. They won't even be able to see that revelation. Come on, church. Come on, Church of God. Come on, Church of God. Idolatry is really our problem. I believe we're the Israelite people, and I believe right now we're praying to a golden calf. We're praying to his idea, white man's idea of success, white man's idea of sophistication. What's sophisticated? And we put those pressures on our children, and we put them more than if we see the spirit lacking real fruits of the spirit. If your child is excelling in their school, everything like that, it doesn't matter as much to you. But if your child is lacking, let's say you have a daughter that's lacking modesty, or you have a son that's having a spirit of I don't know, a promiscuous spirit, or a lot. It's going over. I'm seeing that with our youth these days, going over the parents' head because, listen, child went to uni, child had the uni cap on, graduated. That's what matters. Now he's getting a good job. That's all that matters. So we have to ask ourselves, who's God? Who is our God? Is it still the God of Israel? So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you enjoy it.
And I'm on a mission for you.